Diego Howard, a charismatic 45-year-old investment banker, and his wife Amanda, a 42-year-old art gallery curator, were the epitome of success and refinement. Their sprawling 5-bedroom home with its manicured lawns and luxury vehicles was the envy of their neighbors. For 15 years, the Howards had been pillars of their community, hosting lavish parties, donating generously to local charities, and actively participating in the country club. Their children, Muriel and Atticus, excelled in their private school and extracurricular activities. Yet beneath this perfect facade, a storm was brewing. In the spring of 2023, their seemingly idyllic life began to unravel, exposing a shocking tale of betrayal, illness, and revenge that would leave the community in disbelief. Diego and Amanda's love story began in the fall of 2003 at Northwestern University. Diego, a senior finance major, first saw Amanda at a campus art exhibition. Amanda, a junior studying art history, captivated a group of listeners with her insightful explanation of an abstract piece, her eyes sparkling with passion. Intrigued by her intelligence and beauty, Diego waited until the crowd dispersed to introduce himself, nervously fumbling over his words. Amanda was charmed by his genuine interest and quick wit. That night they talked for hours, losing track of time as they bonded over their shared love of travel, fine cuisine, and classic literature. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic gestures and intellectual discussions. Diego wooed Amanda with surprise picnics in the university's botanical gardens, late-night study sessions that turned into deep conversations about their hopes and dreams, and weekend trips to explore the vibrant art scene. After graduation, Diego landed a coveted position at a prestigious investment firm, while Amanda pursued her master's degree in art curation. Despite their busy schedules, their relationship flourished. They supported each other's ambitions, celebrating every milestone and comforting each other through setbacks. In the spring of 2008, Diego proposed to Amanda atop the Willis Tower at sunset. The early years of their marriage were filled with joy and ambition. They worked hard, saving money and building their careers. Diego climbed the corporate ladder with determination, while Amanda made a name for herself in her competitive art world. In 2011, they welcomed their daughter Muriel, followed 2 years later by their son Jason. Parenthood brought new challenges but also deepened their bond. They tackled sleepless nights and diaper changes as a team, their love growing stronger with each passing day. To all who knew them, Diego and Amanda Howard were the perfect couple, destined for a lifetime of happiness together. As the years passed and the Howards' success grew, subtle changes began to appear in their relationship. The first cracks in their seemingly perfect life emerged around 2018, coinciding with a significant promotion for Diego. His new role as vice president at his firm came with a substantial pay increase but also demanded more of his time and attention. Amanda, who had scaled back her work at the gallery to focus on raising their children, found herself increasingly alone. The intimate dinners and weekend getaways that had once been a staple of their relationship became rare occurrences. Diego was often absent, citing late nights at the office and frequent business trips. At first, Amanda tried to be understanding. She threw herself into volunteer work and focused on the children's activities, telling herself that Diego's dedication to his career was for the benefit of their family. However, as months turned into years, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally changed between them. Friends began to notice the strain. At social gatherings, Diego and Amanda no longer gravitated towards each other as they once had. Their playful banter was replaced by polite, almost formal interactions. Amanda's smile, once radiant in her husband's presence, now seemed forced and brittle. Amanda tried to bridge the gap, planning romantic evenings and family outings, but Diego always seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere. When she expressed her concerns, he dismissed them, assuring her that everything was fine and that he was just under a lot of pressure at work. As 2022 drew to a close, Amanda couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in her gut any longer. Something was wrong, and it went beyond the normal stresses of a busy life. Little did she know the true extent of the trouble in her marriage was about to reveal itself in the most devastating way possible. The seeds of destruction for the Howard marriage were sown on a crisp autumn evening in September 2022. Diego was attending a charity gala at the Art Institute, an event his wife would normally have accompanied him to. However, Amanda had stayed home with a sick Jason, leaving Diego to represent the family alone. It was there that he first laid eyes on Xenia Fisher, a 32-year-old up-and-coming financial analyst who had recently transferred to the office of a rival firm. Xenia was everything Amanda was not: young, ambitious, and unencumbered by family responsibilities. Her sleek black gown and confident demeanor caught Diego's attention immediately. They were seated at the same table for dinner, and as the evening progressed, Diego found himself captivated by Xenia's sharp wit and intimate knowledge of the financial world. They talked for hours, their conversation flowing effortlessly from market trends to personal anecdotes. For the first time in years, Diego felt a spark of excitement, a reminder of the passion he had once felt in his younger days. As the gala wound down, they exchanged business cards, both lingering a moment too long as their fingers brushed. Diego told himself it was purely professional interest, but the thought of Xenia lingered in his mind long after he returned home that night. Over the next few weeks, Diego and Xenia began to meet regularly under the guise of networking and potential collaboration between their firms. Coffee meetings turned into working lunches, which evolved into after-work drinks. Each time, Diego found himself sharing more personal details, confiding in Xenia about his frustrations at home and the pressures of his job. Xenia, for her part, was drawn to Diego's power and success. She saw in him a potential mentor, and perhaps something more. She listened to his troubles with sympathy, offering understanding and support that Diego felt had been missing from his life. The line between professional and personal blurred rapidly. A late-night strategy session at Xenia's apartment became the catalyst for their first kiss. Overwhelmed by desire and the thrill of the forbidden, Diego crossed a line he had never thought himself capable of crossing. As he drove home that night, guilt warred with exhilaration in his mind. He told himself it was a one-time mistake, that he would end it immediately. But as the days passed, he found himself unable to stay away from Xenia. What had started as a chance encounter was quickly developing into a full-blown affair, one that would have catastrophic consequences for everyone involved. In January 2023, while Diego was deepening his involvement with Xenia, Amanda received news that would shake the very foundation of her world. What she had initially dismissed as fatigue and stress-related symptoms turned out to be something far more sinister. After a series of tests and a biopsy, Amanda was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. The day she received the diagnosis, Amanda sat alone in the sterile exam room, her mind reeling as the oncologist gently explained the treatment plan. She felt numb, barely registering the doctor's words about chemotherapy, radiation, and survival rates. In that moment, all she wanted was her husband by her side, but Diego was unreachable, his phone going straight to voicemail. When she finally broke the news to Diego that evening, his reaction was a mixture of shock and what Amanda perceived as detachment. He held her as she cried, murmuring words of comfort, but she couldn't shake the feeling that his mind was elsewhere. She attributed his distance to the stress of processing the diagnosis, never suspecting the true reason for his distraction. The following weeks were a whirlwind of appointments and decisions. Amanda threw herself into researching treatment options and support groups, determined to face her battle with courage. Diego accompanied her to doctor's visits and helped arrange for additional help with the children, but there was a palpable tension between them. Internally, Diego was racked with guilt. The timing of Amanda's illness couldn't have been worse, coming just as his affair with Xenia was intensifying. He found himself torn between his duty to his wife and his growing feelings for his mistress. The stress of maintaining his double life while supporting Amanda through her illness began to take its toll. As Amanda prepared to begin her first round of chemotherapy, she reached out to Diego for emotional support, hoping to reconnect with her husband in the face of this life-altering challenge. But the man she had once considered her rock now seemed distant and unreachable. Little did she know the worst of his betrayal was yet to come. As winter melted into spring, Diego Howard found himself living two entirely separate lives. By day, he was the supportive husband, accompanying Amanda to chemotherapy sessions, managing the household, and maintaining a facade of normalcy for their children. By night, he was Xenia's passionate lover, escaping into a world of excitement and freedom from the burdens of his family life. The guilt of his infidelity, compounded by Amanda's illness, ate away at Diego. He threw himself into his work with renewed vigor, using it as an excuse to create distance from both women. Late nights at the office became his refuge, a neutral space where he could avoid confronting the reality of his choices. Amanda, weakened by her treatments and focused on her recovery, initially attributed Diego's absences to the demands of his job and the stress of her illness. She leaned heavily on her sister Orla and a close-knit group of friends who rallied around her during this difficult time. They provided the emotional support that seemed to be lacking from her husband, though none of them dared to voice their concerns about Diego's behavior. Meanwhile, Xenia grew increasingly impatient with the limitations of their relationship. She pressed Diego for more of his time and attention, hinting at a future together. Diego, unable to fully commit but unwilling to let her go, placated her with promises of a vacation together once things settled down at home. As Amanda's treatment progressed, the strain began to show on the entire family. Muriel, now 12, became withdrawn and sullen, struggling to cope with her mother's illness and her father's constant absences. 9-year-old Jason developed anxiety, clinging to Amanda and dissolving into tears at the slightest provocation. The once happy home became a place of tension and unspoken resentments. Friends and neighbors began to notice the change in the Howard family dynamic. Whispers circulated at school pickups and neighborhood barbecues. Some speculated about the toll of Amanda's illness, while others wondered if there was trouble in the marriage. Diego's colleague, Dominic F.A., had seen him with Xenia at a restaurant across town, but kept his suspicions to himself, unwilling to add to the family troubles. As summer approached, Diego found himself walking an increasingly precarious tightrope. His performance at work, at home, and with Xenia was beginning to slip. He was irritable, distracted, and prone to mood swings. Amanda, despite her weakened state, sensed that something was deeply wrong but lacked the energy to confront him directly. The breaking point was approaching, and it would come in a way that none of them could have anticipated. As Diego planned his getaway with Xenia, he had no idea that his carefully constructed house of cards was about to come crashing down around him. As July 2023 arrived, bringing with it a heat wave that blanketed the city in sweltering temperatures, Diego Howard made a decision that would irreversibly alter the course of his life and the lives of those around him. With Amanda's chemotherapy scheduled to continue throughout the summer, Diego announced that he needed to take a business trip to close an important deal in the Cayman Islands. Amanda, pale and exhausted from her most recent round of treatment, nodded weakly at the news. She was too drained to question the timing or the necessity of the trip, simply asking him to call regularly to check on her and the children. Diego felt a pang of guilt as he looked at his wife, but the guilt wasn't enough to deter him from his plans. In reality, there was no business deal. Diego had arranged a week-long romantic getaway with Xenia, using his connections to book a luxurious private villa on a secluded beach. As he packed his bags, hiding gifts for Xenia among his clothes, he rationalized his actions. He told himself that he deserved this break, that the stress of the past months entitled him to some happiness. The moment Diego and Xenia arrived at their tropical paradise, they threw caution to the wind. They spent their days lounging on the beach, sipping cocktails and indulging in expensive meals. Their nights were filled with passion, both of them reveling in the freedom to be together openly. Diego pushed thoughts of Amanda and his children to the back of his mind, fully immersing himself in the fantasy of a life with Xenia. Back in their house, Amanda's condition took a turn for the worse. The side effects of her latest treatment hit her hard, leaving her bedridden and feverish. Orla moved in temporarily to help with the children and Amanda's care, growing increasingly frustrated with her brother-in-law's absence. She tried repeatedly to reach Diego, but his phone went unanswered. It was Muriel who unwittingly set in motion the events that would expose Diego's betrayal. Worried about her mother and angry at her father's absence, she decided to use the emergency credit card Diego had given her to order flowers for Amanda. When the card was declined, she called the customer service number, posing as Amanda to inquire about recent transactions. The customer service representative, fooled by Muriel's act, revealed a list of charges from the Cayman Islands: luxury restaurants, high-end boutiques, and a jewelry store. Muriel, confused and upset, shared this information with her aunt. Orla, her suspicions finally confirmed, decided it was time to take action. She hired a private investigator who quickly uncovered the truth about Diego's business trip and his ongoing affair with Xenia. Armed with this information and evidence, Orla sat down with Amanda to reveal the extent of her husband's betrayal. With gentle words but unflinching honesty, she shared the evidence gathered by the private investigator. Photos of Diego and Xenia together in the Cayman Islands, records of extravagant purchases, and time-stamped footage of them entering and leaving their villa. Amanda listened in stunned silence, her fingers clutching the arm of her chair so tightly as the full picture of Diego's duplicity emerged. A myriad of emotions washed over her: shock, anger, humiliation, and finally, a steely resolve. When Orla finished speaking, Amanda remained quiet for a long moment. Then, with a voice steadier than she felt, she asked, "What do we do now?" Orla, relieved that her sister's response wasn't one of despair, replied, "Whatever you want to do, I'm here for you no matter what." It was at that moment, with her sister's unwavering support and the harsh truth laid bare before her, that Amanda began to formulate her plan for revenge. She would not let cancer or her husband's betrayal define her. Instead, she would take control of her narrative and secure her future on her own terms. As Amanda absorbed the crushing reality of Diego's infidelity, a transformation took place within her. The initial shock and heartbreak quickly gave way to a cold, calculated anger. Despite her weakened physical state, Amanda's mind sharpened with purpose. She realized that while cancer had threatened to take her life, Diego had chosen to destroy their marriage. In the quiet hours of the night, as her children slept and Orla kept vigil, Amanda began to formulate her plan. She would not be a victim, not of cancer, and certainly not of her husband's betrayal. With a clarity she hadn't felt in months, Amanda decided to take control of her future, starting with the financial security Diego had so carelessly jeopardized. The next morning, Amanda contacted Samuel Dixon, a shrewd divorce attorney known for his ruthless approach to high-profile cases. In a private consultation, Samuel laid out Amanda's options, explaining that given the circumstances, she had a strong case for an advantageous settlement. However, Amanda had other ideas. With Samuel's reluctant guidance and Orla's unwavering support, Amanda set her plan in motion. She began by meticulously documenting Diego's affair and his abandonment during her illness. Next, she reached out to her old contacts in the art world, discreetly inquiring about quick private sales for several valuable pieces in their collection. The most crucial and risky part of her plan involved their joint assets. Using her power of attorney, which Diego had granted her years ago for emergencies, Amanda began the process of liquidating their accounts. She worked tirelessly, making calculated moves to convert their investments into cash without raising immediate alarms. As she worked, Amanda was fueled by a mix of righteous anger and a newfound determination to secure her children's future. She set up new accounts in her name only, transferring funds with precision. The family's vacation home in Michigan was quietly put on the market, sold to a cash buyer within days. Throughout this whirlwind of activity, Amanda maintained an outward appearance of a woman focused solely on her health. She continued her treatments, attended support group meetings, and even managed to keep up a normal routine for Muriel and Jason. Only Orla knew the full extent of Amanda's actions, serving as both confidant and accomplice in her sister's bold plan. As the days passed and Diego's return drew near, Amanda felt a grim satisfaction. She had taken back control in the most profound way possible. Now all that remained was to wait for the man who had betrayed her to come home and face the consequences of his actions. On a sunny Saturday afternoon in late July, Diego Howard returned home from his Cayman Islands business trip, tanned and relaxed. As he pulled into the driveway of their Riverton mansion, he felt a twinge of guilt, knowing he'd have to slip back into the role of devoted husband and father. He had no idea that his carefully constructed double life was about to implode. Entering the unusually quiet house, Diego called out for Amanda and the children. The silence that greeted him was unnerving. He made his way to the kitchen, where he found a thick manila envelope on the counter, his name written in Amanda's elegant script. With a growing sense of dread, Diego opened the envelope. Inside, he found divorce papers along with a letter from Amanda detailing her knowledge of his affair and his absence during her cancer treatments. The final paragraph of the letter informed him that she had liquidated their joint assets, taking what she deemed her fair share after years of supporting his career and raising their family. Panic rising, Diego rushed to his home office and attempted to log into their online banking accounts. Access denied. He called his investment manager, only to learn that most of their portfolio had been sold off over the past week. The vacation home sold. Their valuable art collection gone. As the reality of his situation sank in, Diego sank into his leather office chair, his mind reeling. His phone buzzed with a message from Xenia, asking about their plans for the coming weekend. Diego stared at the screen, the life he thought he wanted now seeming hollow and misguided in the face of everything he had lost. Just then he heard the front door open. Footsteps approached his office, too heavy to be Amanda. The door swung open to reveal Orla, her face a mask of cold fury. "She's here," Diego realized, to ensure he understood the full magnitude of his mistakes and the consequences that were only beginning to unfold. Special Agent Neela of the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division was assigned to investigate the case. Her team began the painstaking process of tracing the movement of the Howards' assets, looking for any signs of fraudulent activity or money laundering. What they uncovered was a complex web of transactions, all meticulously documented and, much to their surprise, entirely legal. Amanda's use of her power of attorney had been within her rights, and she had been careful to keep her actions just within the bounds of the law. However, the investigation did bring to light some questionable financial practices on Diego's part. His expense accounts revealed a pattern of lavish spending that extended far beyond his trip with Xenia. There were irregular cash withdrawals, undeclared gifts, and suggestions of attempts to hide assets offshore. As Agent Neela dug deeper, she uncovered connections between Diego and several companies that had recently been under scrutiny for insider trading. While not directly implicated, the evidence suggested that Diego had been walking an ethical line in his professional dealings. In the spring of 2024, nearly a year after the implosion of the Howard family, the case finally went to trial. Diego's lawyers attempted to paint Amanda as a vindictive woman who had overreacted to a simple indiscretion, illegally seizing assets in a fit of jealous rage. They argued that her actions had not only destroyed Diego, his life, but had negatively impacted their children and potentially compromised client funds at his firm. Amanda's team, led by the sharp-tongued Dixon, methodically dismantled this narrative. They presented evidence of Diego's long-term affair, his neglect during Amanda's cancer treatment, and the paper trail of his own financial misdeeds. Witnesses, including Orla and several of Diego's former colleagues, testified to his erratic behavior and ethical lapses in the months leading up to the discovery of his infidelity. The most damning testimony came from Xenia Fisher, who, in exchange for immunity, revealed the full extent of her relationship with Diego, including his promises to leave Amanda and his dismissive comments about his wife's illness. As the trial progressed, it became clear that the case had evolved beyond a simple divorce proceeding. The judge, forced to consider the complexities of the situation, had to weigh not only the dissolution of the marriage, but also the potential criminal aspects of Diego's financial dealings. After weeks of dramatic testimony and skillful legal maneuvering, the court prepared to render its verdict. Diego was found guilty of multiple financial crimes and sentenced to 3 years in a minimum security prison. The case of Diego and Amanda Howard reminds us that deception and personal ambition can steal the most precious things in life. While success and wealth may be important goals, loyalty, love and support within the family are what really matter. Amanda demonstrated strength and determination to overcome difficulties and protect her rights and those of her children. The lesson is that success is no substitute for truth and family love, and betrayal always has serious consequences. Follow our channel to discover dramatic and mysterious true cases. Join us to investigate, analyze, and find out the truth behind each story. Register now to not miss the most interesting content. Thanks for watching.